Hello, my friends. We have a new story that we're going to read today, and it's called Anansi. I know that's kind of funny, but I think you guys are really going to like it. But before we read it, let's go over the vocabulary words that you've been learning, because when I read the story, I want you to be listening to see if you can hear any of those special words. Okay, the first word is habitat. Do you guys know what that word is? I hope you've been practicing. A habitat is like the place where an animal lives and grows. So think about the habitat of a bear, lives in a den, right? Habitat of an ant, lives in like an ant mound, you know, like a little like pile almost. What about the habitat of a frog? They live a little bit in the water, kind of like on their little lily pads, on the land a little bit. Okay. So you guys know what a habitat is, where an animal lives. Okay, so our next word is complain. Do you guys know what complain is? Okay, so complain is when you say that you're upset about something. Have any of you been complaining over the last couple of weeks? Maybe whining to your mom or dad because you just don't like how things are right now, that you have to stay at home all the time and you don't get to go to school and Yeah? I bet your moms and dads would say yes to that. So that's complaining, when you're just not happy about the way things are. And I think all of us complain sometimes, but it's okay if you don't like the way things are. You can still be happy, right? And not complain. Okay, let's move on to the next word. Our next word is wild. Has anyone ever called you wild before, or said you're acting wild? Okay, so let me tell you what wild means. Sometimes we describe people as being wild, but the word wild is really meant for animals. So a wild animal is an animal that doesn't live at your house, an animal that is not a pet. They live out in the forest or the jungle or the wilderness somewhere, but they don't live in your house. So like a pet, like a cat or a dog or a bird, those are not wild animals. Those are your pets. They live in your house. But animals like elephants or giraffes or cheetahs, we probably wouldn't want them living at our house. So those animals are wild. They live out in the world, not in our house. Okay, our next word is join. Do you guys know what join means? It means when you and someone else do something together. So maybe you ask a friend to join you to play on the monkey bars. Or maybe you ask your mom to join you while you're doing your schoolwork. Have you guys been doing that? Or maybe you're a really kind brother or sister and you ask your brother or sister to join you playing a game. So that's what join means, when you ask someone to do something with you. Pretty easy. And our last word is stubborn. Stubborn means when you never give up. So like if you say, Mom, I really want a cupcake, and your mom says, no cupcakes today. And you just keep going. Mom, I want a cupcake. Mom, I want a cupcake. Mom, I want a cupcake. And you never give up. That's being stubborn. So sometimes stubborn can be a bad thing like that, when you're being like a little whiny with it and you're not listening to your mom or dad. But sometimes stubborn can be good. Like if you're working really hard on something, like maybe subtraction, and you're having a hard time, but you say, I'm never gonna give up, and you keep practicing and practicing, that's stubborn in a good way, when you don't give up and you keep trying and trying. Okay, so those are all of our special vocabulary words. When I'm reading our story, Anansi, I want you to listen for those words. When you hear those special words, I want you to give me a little twinkle. Okay, now this story, Anansi, is actually a fable. Do you guys know what a fable is? Do you remember? We've talked about this before. A fable is a story that teaches a lesson. So we're going to read this story, and then we're going to talk about a lesson that we might learn from it. Okay, here we go. Take a look. Here we go. It was an average morning in the African desert. No wind was blowing. The sun was just warming up, and the birds were chirping and searching for food in the branches of the baobab trees. Anansi the spider lived in this desert habitat. At the bottom of a twisty baobab tree, She caught beetles and moths and flies and butterflies in her web. She was cooking up yesterday's catch, fried bugs with beetle sauce. Anansi was humming and cooking when her friend Turtle walked by. He stopped at the welcoming smell of food. "May I share your breakfast, Anansi?" he asked. "Certainly, Turtle," Anansi answered after a long pause. "But if you please, wash your hands first." That's a good idea, right? We should all be washing our hands. Okay, here we go. Turtle frowned, but he agreed to go wash his hands. "This is the driest part of the desert," he thought as he walked away. "I don't want to complain, but the nearest water is all the way back at the river." As Turtle walked to the river, he watched out for wild animals that might eat him, like eagles and baboons. It was a dangerous trip. Finally, Turtle reached Anansi's house. Anansi was sitting back in her chair, looking very satisfied. Then Turtle saw that half of the food was gone. Anansi looked at Turtle closely. "Your hands are still dirty," she said. "I want to share my breakfast with you, but you must wash your hands again." So Turtle returned to the river and washed his hands again. On the way back, he tried his best to keep them from getting dusty. Back at Anansi's house, Turtle found that all of the food was gone. "I was going to save some food for you," said Anansi, "but then I decided that you would not want to eat cold insects. Maybe next time." Turtle knew that Anansi had tricked him, but he said nothing. He simply went home hungry. Does it sound like Anansi's being a very good friend? I don't know. Here we go. A few weeks later, it was another hot day in the desert. All of the desert animals were cooling off near the river. Dragonflies buzzed above the water. Birds waded in the water searching for fish. A family of elephants took a loud bath and sprayed each other with their trunks. The river was Turtle's home. He had spent the morning fishing for minnows. Anansi crawled to the river's edge just as Turtle was sitting down to lunch. She could see him at his table under the cool, clear water. Anansi poked her head into the river. "Hello, Turtle. May I join you for lunch?" she asked. "Why, of course," Turtle replied. "It would be my honor. Come on down." Anansi dived into the water, but she floated right back up to the top. She was too light to stay down at the table. "Keep trying," Turtle called. He watched happily as he took a giant bite of snails. Anansi kept trying hard to sink, but it was useless. Anansi watched Turtle eat his delicious lunch, but she could not reach him. She became upset. Then the stubborn spider came up with a clever plan. She filled her jacket pockets with heavy river rocks. The extra weight helped sink her to the bottom of the river. Anansi pulled up a chair at Turtle's table, picked up a fork, and reached for a bite of snails. "Just 1 minute, my friend," said Turtle. Anansi stopped. "What seems to be the problem, Turtle?" she asked. "Well, at my house, it's not polite to eat with a jacket on." "Please, take off your jacket," Turtle said. Anansi knew that she could not be rude in her friend's house. She took off her jacket and floated back up to the surface of the water. Her plan had failed. All she could do was crawl home hungry. "Turtle tricked me right back," Anansi thought as she fixed her web. "I guess I deserved it." Later that afternoon, Turtle visited the baobab. He apologized to Anansi, and she apologized too. The two friends promised to share their food from then on and to never trick each other. The end. Okay, so remember we said at the beginning that a fable is a story that teaches a lesson. So I want you to think about what was the lesson that we learned from Anansi and the turtle. Remember, they were They wanted to eat with each other. They were playing tricks on each other. They weren't being very kind. But then at the end, they apologized. So what's the lesson that we can learn from this story? Think about yourself and your friends that you have. What are some things that you can do that you might learn from this story? Okay, I want you to talk to your mom or your dad about it and see what lesson they learned from the story. All right, guys, have a great day.